So as I'm pretty sure that you're already aware, but the Karen Read trial is well underway. And what a trial this is somehow turning out to be. So for anyone that's unaware, this is a highly publicized trial over in Massachusetts, involving a woman accused of striking her Boston police officer boyfriend with her SUV and leaving him for dead in a snowbank. John O'Keefe died in the Boston suburb of Canton on January 29th, 2022. Prosecutors say that Karen Read dropped him off at a house party after a night of drinking, struck him while making a three-point turn, and drove away. Now, Read has pleaded not guilty to second-degree murder charges as well as some other charges, and her defense team argues that she's been framed, and O'Keefe's body was found on the front lawn of another officer, and the defense argues the homeowner's relationship with the local and state police tainted their investigation. So here's a little look at some of the facts and the legal arguments. Before we even start here, I think one of the biggest arguments in this case should be what on earth happened to Karen Read's eyebrows. It literally looks like somebody shaved them off and superglued them on so that she looks permanently surprised. Any of Karen Read's facial expressions are so strange to even try and determine, when her eyebrows are just like that the entire time. Now, the prosecution have put up several witnesses who have recalled hearing Karen Read say that she hit John O'Keefe, as well as those who say the couple had a stormy relationship that O'Keefe was trying to end it at the time of his death. On Wednesday, jurors heard from two sisters who vacationed in Aruba with Read and O'Keefe a few weeks before his death. They testified that the couple fought because Read falsely accused O'Keefe of kissing Marietta Sullivan, the younger sister. Marietta Sullivan said that Read swore at her after seeing her talking to O'Keefe, and Laura Sullivan said that O'Keefe seemed distant during this trip. Now, according to Laura Sullivan, when she asked him if he was happy, he had replied by saying, "It is what it is." On Friday, a federal agent testified that he exchanged flirtatious texts with Read later that month after she unexpectedly kissed him after he watched a football game with her and O'Keefe. Brian Higgins, a special agent for the US Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, read a series of text messages in which they both said that they were attracted to each other, and Read had said that her relationship with O'Keefe had deteriorated. "There's cracks and it's far from perfect," she wrote. Was the defendant interested in me? Was she at the end of her relationship with John? Was she trying to weaponize me against John and put me in the middle? Which were Brian Higgins' rebuttals to some of these accusations. On cross-examination, Read's attorney suggested Higgins grew frustrated when Read ghosted him about a week before O'Keefe's death and ignored him at a local bar the night O'Keefe died. Higgins, who said that he didn't feel ignored, acknowledged that he was sexually attracted to Read but denied being interested in a romantic relationship by simply stating, "I'm not going to go there." To which the attorney, Alan Jackson, simply replied, "Of course you're not going to go there, because that would put you in a very awkward position, wouldn't it?" Now, Read's lawyers have alleged that O'Keefe was beaten inside the home, bitten by a family dog and then left outside. They had portrayed the investigation as shoddy and undermined by the close relationship investigators had with the police and other law enforcement agents at the house party. The defense, which has been allowed to present what is called a third-party culprit evidence, argues that investigators focused on Read because she was a convenient outsider who saved them from having to consider other suspects. Those they've implicated so far include Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, the owner of the home where O'Keefe died, and his nephew, Colin Albert. The defense also sought to implicate Brian Albert's sister-in-law, Jennifer McCabe, who was at his home that night and was with Read when O'Keefe's body was discovered the next morning. Now, Read's attorney then pressed Jennifer on why she told grand jurors a dozen times that Read asked, "Did I hit him or could I have hit him?" but now says that she heard Read declare, "I hit him 3 times. The truth of the matter is that you've manufactured this new story for the jury because you think it helps you out," Jackson said. "And absolutely not," is what Jennifer replied. Jennifer has also said that Read also asked her to Google how long it takes for someone to die of hypothermia moments after the body was discovered. But on Wednesday, jurors would actually see cell phone data that suggested that Jennifer made this same type of search just 4 hours prior to this and then deleted it later on. "I did not delete that search. I never made that search," Jennifer said. "I would have never have left John O'Keefe out in the cold to die because he was my friend that I loved." The defense, which alleges the group of friends concocted a cover-up together, also questioned Higgins about phone records that show a 1-second call from Brian Albert to Higgins at 2:22 a.m., followed by a second call moments later from Higgins to Albert that lasted just 22 seconds. "I have no recollection of that phone call or calling anyone back," Brian Higgins said. "There was no discussion and I never talked to Brian Albert." So Brian Higgins was one of the people at an after party at Brian Albert's, and this was at his Fairview Road home on January the 29th. So with this third-party culprit defense, they're saying that Higgins is one of 3 men who could have killed O'Keefe in a fight. One of the 3 men involved in a group that then grabbed John O'Keefe's body and dragged it outside. And during his testimony, testimony on Friday, Higgins said that he considered O'Keefe as a friend, which fair enough, but at the same time you definitely shouldn't be kissing his wife, regardless of what's going on in their relationship, as just that entanglement alone shows how much you can mess an investigation up by muddying all waters in the investigation. Now, both men were drinking at the Waterfall Bar at Grill in Canton before leaving for Brian Albert's home, but Higgins said that he never saw O'Keefe again after leaving the bar, and this is when prosecutors then introduced dozens of text messages between Karen Read and Brian Higgins. After this, children connected to the Karen Read murder trial took the stand on Tuesday, but just before the children testified, Higgins was back on the stand for the rest of his cross-examination. Last Friday, he read several flirty text messages that he'd exchanged with Read just days before O'Keefe died. Defense attorney Alan Jackson handled the cross-examination on Friday, but he was unable to be in the Norfolk Superior Court on Tuesday. Yannetti continued the cross-examination in Jackson's absence. On Friday, Jackson accused Higgins of destroying his phone despite receiving a preservation order for his data. Higgins said that he simply just threw it away. When court resumed on Tuesday, Yannetti once again was focused on Higgins disposing of his phone. It went in a trash bag, yes, Higgins said. You used a passive voice. It went into a trash bag. Did it fly out of your hand unexpectedly into a trash bag, sir? Yannetti said. Are you reluctant to say that you put it in a trash bag, sir? Yannetti asked Higgins if it was important that no one saw his text with members of the Albert family, to which Higgins responded by saying, no sir, that's not true. From that day forward, no one would ever be able to discover the content that you discussed on your phone, Yannetti asked, before concluding cross-examination after about just 10 minutes. Prosecutor Adam Lively later followed up by asking Higgins why he threw his phone away. Because it was beaten up, it was broken up, and I already had a new phone. The only explanation is I threw it away, that's it, Higgins said. Higgins said that the reason he was getting rid of his phone was that a person he was investigating in another case had posted his number online. And with cross-examination completed, Lally once again questioned Higgins. Lally asked Higgins if he'd spoken to anyone else about the text messages with Read. He said that he'd not. On a personal level, I keep things to myself. I was a little embarrassed, not really proud of them. Didn't show me in a good light with respect that I was John's friend, Higgins said. Higgins then completed his testimony and stepped down after less than an hour on the stand on Tuesday. After this, children connected to the Karen Read murder trial took the stand on Tuesday. Following the end of the testimony from Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives agent Brian Higgins, a doctor who treated O'Keefe the night of his death, also took the stand. Now at 10 AM, all cameras in the courtroom were ordered to shut off, as children who were in John O'Keefe's care took the stand. Now O'Keefe took custody of his sister's children after she died of cancer, and the children's father died of a heart attack several months later. And a court order prevented the media from broadcasting any information until the children finished their testimony. Now when it comes to this investigation and this case, I'm certainly not saying that Karen Read didn't do it, but I'm not exactly inclined to say that she did it either. And whether or not she did do it, the way that they went about this investigation is allowing this case to almost become a 2024 kind of OJ trial, because the level of incompetence via the police force in this investigation is so bad and so connected / intertwined, as well as the fact that usually in a case when you have police officers involved in another police officer's death, the corruption or corruptive side would be that the investigators were spending too much of their time and sources on a police officer's death as opposed to a normal civilian's. Whereas in this case, you have the complete opposite. You have officers taking the stand who just a month prior to this individual's death are getting with his wife while claiming to be his friend. It's utterly mind-blowing to say the least, but this is just a small introduction from my side into this case, as we start to fully investigate what on earth is going on inside the Karen Read trial. And if you enjoyed this video, then feel free to drop a like and follow, as it helps out the channel. And please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and as always, have a great week.